We are the first species.
Pay attention, people. Pay attention.
To be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do. The babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight.
Are you saying the map is wrong?
Oh dear, yes. Look at Greenland.
Okay.
Now look at Africa.
Okay.
The two land masses appear to be roughly the same size.
Yes.
Would it blow your mind if I told you that Africa is in reality 14 times larger?
Yes?
Here we have Europe, drawn considerably larger than South America. When it's 6.9 million square miles, South America is almost double the size of Europe's 3.8 million.
Alaska appears 3 times as large as Mexico, when Mexico is larger by 0.1 million square miles.
Germany appears in the middle of the map when it's in the northernmost quarter of the Earth.
Wait. Relative size is one thing, but you're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is?
Nothing's where you think it is.
Where is it?
I'm glad you asked. The Peters projection.
It has fidelity of axis.
Fidelity of position.
East-west lines are parallel and intersect north-south axes at right angles.
What the hell is that?
It's where you've been living this whole time.
Do you know that eels are the only animals on the earth that we don't know where they came from?
I didn't know that.
Scientists have done observations of them. All eels during a specific time in the year, no matter where they are, they will all travel to the Bermuda Triangle, and that's where they meet. It could be in Europe, it could be in the freshwater rivers of the United States. When it's time to mate, they will all go to the Bermuda Triangle. And it's hard for scientists to study them because it's too dangerous. So we really don't know where they came from. And the males and females have no reproductive organs.
You can't believe what happened to Kanye West. In a shocking twist to the celebrity world, whispers emerged that Kanye West, after a hauntingly cryptic performance, mysteriously vanished, only to be seen entering a covert lab known for pioneering human cloning. Months later, as a man claiming to be Kanye returns to the spotlight, subtle changes in his behavior, music, and messaging spark rumors among fans. The real Kanye has been replaced. The conspiracy deepens when an anonymous source, dubbed the Yeezy Insider, starts leaking classified documents and footage, unveiling a world where the line between original and duplicate blurs.
Yo, check this out. So, the United States just discovered the specific place where hell is on Earth. No way. In the quiet town of Eldridge Hollow, nestled deep within the Appalachian Mountains, a dark secret caught the attention of government agent Emma Blackwell. Reports of strange occurrences and bizarre weather patterns led her to an ancient cavern system beneath the town. As she descended into the darkness, she stumbled upon a portal to a realm that seemed to be the very embodiment of hell on Earth.
Bombshell. On October the 29th, the interstellar visitor 3I Atlas reached its closest point to the Sun. At that moment, NASA confirmed a butterfly-shaped coronal hole so massive it could swallow 35 Earths. Solar storms are now bombarding our planet. What makes scientists double-check the data is the timing. Could an object from outside our solar system trigger rare changes on the Sun? Or is this just cosmic coincidence? The answer starts with a question science has never faced before.
That's what I'm thinking, anyway. So if it
You know what the darkest conspiracy theory about aliens is?
I don't know if I'm ready for it.
That Earth is essentially a farm, and human beings are the vessels that contain souls, and they want us because this is how they create souls. And so they're farming us. They've created us. So we started off as primates, and through some sort of genetic intervention, I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying that this is like top of the food chain, put your tinfoil hat on super tight, that they farm us. and that the whole reason why human beings are involved in this conflict, constant conflict, it's all of it is to increase our competition with each other, increase our ability to control resources, which will increase our technology, which will ultimately lead to us creating this being that we're going to create, this artificially intelligent super god.
Here comes the truth about the moon landings.
What was the scariest moment of the journey?
Scariest. It didn't happen. It could have been scary. Certainly.
The NASA knows where the Leviathan is and doesn't want you to know. NASA used to be a marine exploration organization from the late 1950s to the early 1970s. However, at the end of June, many confidential files were leaked by a former NASA employee, the most notable being Operation Leviathan. In 1967, NASA launched a mission to find the Leviathan once and for all. On March 1st of that year, they launched a specialized fleet of 11 research vessels, and for more than a year, these ships scoured the oceans for signs of the Leviathan. On August 12, 1968, they found something astonishing in a remote part of the Pacific Ocean near the Mariana Trench. Their sonar equipment detected what appeared to be a kind of enormous underwater serpent, living thousands of feet below the surface and measuring more than 300 feet in length. This information was kept secret for decades but was testified under oath before the jury, so lying would be a crime. But the most shocking thing is that photos and videos were revealed.
That he clearly states that they are going to become gods, and there is nothing you can do about it. If you try and resist, they will kill you.
We are going to become gods. Period. If you don't like it, get off. You don't have to contribute. You don't have to participate. But if you're going to interfere with me becoming God, you're going to have big trouble. Then we'll have warfare. The only way you can prevent me in this 50 or is to kill me. If you kill me, I'll kill you.
The chilling speech mirrors warnings delivered by Yuval Noah Harari, Klaus Schwab's right-hand man in recent times. Harari also mocks ordinary people as useless and hopeless, and tells humanity they have no future worth living in the brave new world of the WF's Agenda 2030, where the elites have the power of creation and destruction.
Developing even bigger powers than ever before, we are really acquiring divine powers of creation and destruction.
People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony. I'd be fine with that.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. I was going to put him.
Clearly a green screen.
Then all of the times we witnessed that it was someone wearing a mask.
can't tell me this is normal. Look at his forehead. This is bullshit. That's a mask. That's a skin mask. It ain't normal. Look at it.
North Carolina, and he was a very conservative guy who was very, very.
Oh my gosh, that's a mask.
African American.
Holy cow.
Mr. Ford, what advice would you give a young lady wanting to become President of the United States?
Well, I hope we do have a young lady at some point become President of the United States. I can tell you how I think it will happen, because it won't happen in the normal course of events. Either the Republican or Democrat political party will nominate a man for president and a woman for vice president. And the woman and man will win. So you'll end up with a president, a male, and a vice president, a female. And in that term of office of the president will die, and the woman will become president under the law or Constitution. And once that barrier is broken, from then on, men better be careful, because they'll have a hard time ever even getting a nomination in the future. But that's the way it's going to happen, and I think it'll probably come sometime in the next 4 or 8 years.
Across the millennium years is crunch time in this whole agenda, crunch time for the human race. This is the time when this network of interbreeding bloodlines wants to bring in its global fascist structure of a world government to which nation states would be administrative units, of a world central bank and a world currency, a currency that wouldn't be cash, it would be merely electronic, for which there are fundamental implications for human freedom. And also the world army, which is designed to be NATO, expanding and expanding as it is now, of course, to become the fully fledged world army, world police force. And underpinning that little lot is designed to be a microchip population, in which we are microchipped with our financial details, our medical details, etc., etc. And that would allow not only electronic tagging, people knowing where we are all the time, it would allow the external manipulation through this electronic means of our mental and emotional processes. This will happen unless the human race wakes up and wakes up fast. And to do that, we need to understand what's really going on. And to let people know that, we've got to stop beating about the bush, stop pulling punches, stop pussyfooting around, keeping information from people, oh my goodness, how will they react, and just say, this is going on, take it or leave it, make of it what you will, but this is what's going on.
And that radio command link. Actually, it's a link along that tether line. You see there, 25 feet of umbilical cord. That contains the life support system and communications link from the spacecraft life support system out through that chest pack.
We see this ectodermal dysplasia is common in children in Veracruz. And this is something that Lauren studies. She's learned about this too. It comes with no mental deficiencies at all. So you have no learning disabilities at all. All you have are these jaguar-looking feline teeth, and this is common in it's becoming less and less, and like drastically less common in kids in Veracruz, but it's still disproportionately common in children there.
So, so the implication may be that like children who were born with this, they were like, this isn't a shaman, and they would go to this right.
And maybe it was very rare, like in deep time.
Yeah.
But they were bred. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so it became more and more and more and more and more common. And you had almost this separate breakaway species of people who are born with this, disability or whatever. But it wasn't seen as disability to them. It was seen that the spirit of the jaguar is in you, and you're like a half jaguar person.
Yeah.
Isaac, what the f?
In another video of his, he explains that he's very old and shows a photograph of himself 100 years ago. Check this out.
Okay. I kind of feel like the more I show you, the more you guys won't believe me. But it's okay. I'm used to this now. Hey, Mama. That's me. I've always been trying to make my way into film, even 100 years ago.
Now, I'm not exactly sure if this is the real deal or not. What I do know, however, is that this is not the first time someone claims to be a vampire. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that this could be an elaborate hoax? Or is it something else entirely?
When we looked at this, we said, listen, this looks like, I think Gabby was right. Bird flu is the next disease X. We've been studying this. It turns out the strain that people are getting sick, believe it or not, Tommy, there was a dolphin that got bird flu off of Florida. The strain is a gain-of-function strain. It's a manipulated strain. Looks like it's coming out of the USDA Poultry Research Lab in Athens, Georgia.
University of Georgia. It's maybe not the best time to be an alumni.
No, not the University of Georgia. The USDA Poultry Research Center in Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
So it's USDA. The USDA. Now, former CDC Director Redfield was out on national TV this week saying, "Oh yeah," he goes, bird flu. It's really hard to get bird flu to infect humans, but if I change 5 amino acids in their spike protein, the hemagglutinates, I can get it to jump into humans and spread to humans. He goes, that's not going to happen in nature, very likely, but it could be done in a lab. He said, in fact, gain-of-function research is being done on bird flu in academic labs. So he comes out and says this. This is astounding. Tommy, you'd never guess who is the director of the USDA Poultry Research Center in Athens, Georgia.
Anthony Fauci? I don't.
A former Gates Foundation director.
All right.
Papa tells us to hold a knife, and then he puts his big hand on. He pushes it into the neck, cuts it, and after, but when it's upside down, so it's like he goes like that. How does the baby become upside down? So you get a string, hang it up, and it's upside down when it's asleep. Well, hang the baby upside down after they inject it. Yes. Miss Martin, the nurse, she injects it. Miss Martin is a nurse of our school. She does the injecting. She pretends to be kind to my mom and tries to say be kind. And then after she injects. She's the nurse, so she pretends to be kind to mom. And so if I hurt myself, she pretends to be really kind to us and look after us and give us eye care. She's a member of this club? Yes, she's a. And what do they all have? You say they all have a special something that they wear and stuff? Yes, they wear this special kind of shoes. They make her
shoes?
Baby skin shoes. Daniel, Felix, and Max Who are Daniel, Felix and Matt? They work at a shoe shop. Daniel and Felix, yes. What shoe shop do they work at? Daniel and Felix, they work in next to the O2 Centre one in this tube station. Where? Just inside the tube station. So tube station where? What tube station, Daniel? O2 Centre one. O2 Centre where? So in the corner. Which tube station? I think it's the next Waitress. I didn't Hampstead. Finchley Road Station. The tube station? Yes, yes. So when you come in, there's this shop, the shoe shop. So tell me what they do, these fellows. And those fellows, they take off the skin. I don't know how. The skin of whom? Oh, the baby. The baby. And they make shoes? Yes. And who wears these shoes? Papa. Everyone wears the shoes.
Point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors. At BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year. And what we are doing internally is, if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And that's not just not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities. And we're going to have to force change.
The biggest military-industrial complex business of arms, guns, weapons, anything to do with war, BlackRock runs that.
Hieroglyphic for the Egyptian word for God. Now that word is neter, N-E-T-E-R, neter. It's where we get our English word nature from. But that was their word for the gods. And when they drew the hieroglyphic, this is what it looked like. Now I think of the innumerable images you could use for the god or for the gods, why choose this one? You have a wave of electrical type energy, very similar to the symbol for Aquarius in astrology, and beneath it you have this mysterious shape.
I was able to pick a coin up off the top of a desk, and I've also been able to lift off coin from the bottom of the floor. So these are perfect. They look really great. They are pretty high. As you can see, they almost go to the elbow. And these are great stuff. I've been waiting to get a pair of gloves that were a little smaller than the regular ones.
I was chief of disguise.
What all did that entail?
The office I worked in was like the Q in James Bond. We were the Q for the CIA and the intelligence community. So there were different parts of it. Whatever you needed, if you needed a bug, if you needed secret writing or a microdot or a concealment device or whatever you needed, you had to come to us and we'll put something together for you.
What's the most memorable moment from being in disguise for you?
There were a number of them, but one that has to stand out, I went to the White House and I briefed George H.W. Bush, the president at the time, while I was wearing a full face mask. So we're sitting like this close together and I'm telling him that I'm going to show him the best disguise that we have. And he's looking for a bag, like, where is it? I said, well, I'm wearing it and I'm going to take it off. And I reached to start taking it off and he said, stop. And he got up and he walked and he looked and he looked at it. He didn't know it was a mask. He wasn't sure what I was wearing. He sat back down. He said, okay. So I took it off and I was holding it up in the air so he could see it. my whole head. It had hair and a face and a neck.
So you could walk around as someone else?
Absolutely.
And that would be the disguise?
Absolutely.
Collagen, 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 collagen.
See that? This one, you can see this one clear as day. Clear as day. Okay?
Wait, isn't that the same Tyler Perry who literally wears skin suits and acts as other characters?
If you listen to the voice on Tyler Perry's speak when he speaks, you will clearly hear Will Smith.
She was so happy to have that. It's very sentimental for me, and we do a lot of shooting down here for a lot of the shows. I've been totally computer generated since like the 90s. We do a lot of shooting down here for a lot of the shows. It's 2019, y'all. Nothing's real.
That's a costume. That's a costume. That's a costume.
I don't know how we expect to go to the movies.
Collagen.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is Michael Jackson. Like, how the hell are we going to actually go to the movies? He has his disguise on, you know?
So at this point now, I'm tripped out because I'm like,
That's Michael.
Saw Mike just change and turn into a whole nother person. Like, he was a king of disguises. Like, this nigga could have been standing next to you the whole time. You would not even know it was Mike.
That disguise to him was the burn victim. And Dave, yes, that's his name.
To his Encino house. I think I was at the Encino house. Hello all, this is Dave. How are you? I want to thank each and every one of you for your overwhelming support. May God bless you. I love you. Good night. Thank you very much for all of your support, and may God bless you all. I love you. Goodbye.
That's a costume.
We need to hide the true identity of our officers. They said, what you are calling an operation, we call a performance. Working on that performance, we have to define the stage, who your audience is, who are you playing to, who are you trying to fool. Idea of stunt double masks. They're quick on, they're quick off. They dramatically change your appearance and found them to be valuable to our operations. So we went back to our disguise labs out at Langley, and we invented a whole new genre of masks that are so realistic, they're good enough that you can brief the President of the United States in the Oval Office wearing a mask. And he isn't sure if it's you. Those masks were the beginning of a whole new generation of work that we did at the CIA. On and off, like a hat.
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles. Those candidates are phonies!
So you see her hands go above her face once. Watch when they come back down.
I wanted to post screenshots of the AI filter coming off so people could see for a bit longer just how insane this is.
Watch her face glitch. Now watch her back tattoo disappear.
Are supposed to be some of the most verified images of giants. There's a part of history that just is not being told. Hieroglyphics in Egypt showing massive human-like entities.
There's a giant footprint in granite in South Africa.
It's about as tall as you are, 6 foot tall, a footprint.
Look at this. There's the big toe and the other 4 toes down to the small toe, down to the heel. What's fascinating about this is this piece sticking out here. It's like when you put your foot in mud and you pull it out, your toes will lift up a little mud.
That's got to be the foot of a 20 to 40 foot creature.
There was another kind of human on this planet which wouldn't go along with Darwinian evolution.
There was a petrified finger that was found. Tell us about that. Was it biological?
Oh, very much so. So they've scanned it. They can see the tendons and the bones, and it's very much organic finger bone with the fingernail as well. And if you would have attached that to a human and done the analysis, it would have been over 20 foot tall. maybe we're talking Anunnaki or the offspring, the Nephilim, here on Earth. Maybe these Bible stories have more to tell us than we're giving them credit.
This new video footage shown in Colorado really proved that Bigfoot does exist. Now here's a close-up of the creature, and as you can see, very detailed body and also very detailed face. Now what I did here is I did change the color spectrum, and as you can see the shadowing of the eyes, you could tell where the nose is, the mouth, the forehead, and you could see all the different texturing in the body as well. So very detailed. Is it real? That's the question. What do you guys think?
It seems like a regular, fun day on the boat. But as the video continues, things take a surprising turn, and what happens next has left everyone guessing. Watch this.
You knew J-Rod.
Came from Zeta Reticuli, which is what we are going to colonize in the future. And they traveled back 52,000 and 45,000 years respectively.
State planet origin? Okay, yesterday you told us you traveled, and I quote, thousands of light years to get here. Sort of human.
And there was this art teacher, and he gave up on God, he cussed out God and started worshiping Satan, and he said, Satan, I want you to show me what you look like, because I want to paint you, and I want to look at that thing as a visual of who I worship so that it would give me more faith. And he said he shut out all the lights, closed all the blinds, and he pulled out a canvas, and he started painting, and he said every movement he made was something else moving him.
Another force was physically directing my body. Painted for several hours, and I was finished. It was the most fantastic painting I've ever done.
And the painting looks just like one of those beings from the Avatar movies. So what does this word avatar mean? It comes from Sanskrit, and it means descent. It's actually the incarnation of a spiritual being or a powerful deity on Earth.
Family. From the first contact in 1942, a series of diplomatic visits to discuss matters of mutual concern were planned. Under the Treaty 2304, these meetings would take place in secrecy. A limited number of special agents would escort visitors, and they would only meet high-ranking officers. According to the document 072E, at the meeting of 1961, there was an incident involving 3 subjects due to the violation of the agreement by the officers at the military base. When they discovered that their arrival was been filmed with a hidden device without their consent. Under the Treaty 2304, the meetings would be confidential, and filming or taking photographs would not be allowed. After the incident, the treaty was revised.
They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah, so a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to, yeah, I guess I'm just, I can't really talk, I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about, like, because it's like, The government clearly prints money, it does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
I've been married a long time ago. What do you come from? What do you come from?
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
Now that means pretty unequivocally that more than a year after the conclusion of that initial contract, Ning Li was still working with the DoD. But then, Ning Li just fell off the academic radar. She stopped publishing papers, stopped making public appearances, and before long, people began to wonder if this promising physicist who seemed to have unlocked the secret to anti-gravity had gone missing, or maybe worse. We did get some tacit confirmation that Ning Li was still working with the Department of Defense in 2004 when a journalist investigating her disappearance named Tim Ventura didn't manage to hunt down Ning Li, but did manage to get in touch with one of her colleagues, another scientist named Eugene Podkletnov. Now, Podkletnov relayed that she was doing fine and was still working with the US military, but could not offer any further details into the nature of their work. But after that, the trail pretty much went cold. And by 2008, 4 years later, people were beginning to fill in the blanks with their own conspiracy theories, starting with a scientist named Jack Sarfati, who took to social media to post that he knew for a fact that Ning Li had made significant strides in her anti-gravity efforts, but had since decided to leave the United States to return to continue her work for the Chinese government.
I start as a stand-up comedian.
Sure.
I control my destination. I'm doing stand-up comedy.
Facts.
The stand-up comedy led to, then you got to get an agent, a manager, and all this stuff.
Right. Right.
And I don't know what they are, handlers, whatever you want to call them.
We were both invited to an Illuminati thing, and it had to be one or the other of us, and decisions had to be made. So it was both of us, we were equal. One of us had to cut off all their hair and couldn't do the sideburn thing no more with the points. And the next person, they said, was going to get $200 million because they were going to pay him $10 million a movie to do 20 movies. And that's how the conversation happened. One of those persons turned out to be Ludacris, and the other person turned out to be Cat Williams. Now, one person ended up with a light-skinned, ugly-faced wife that's never done it. Remember I told you that if I say that, it applied to 7 people? Yes. It's part of what they give you.
And here's the direct quote from Ridley Scott. If the planet went wrong, they, engineers, would want to wipe it clean. But that could take 500 years. When they revisit, because different visitors would come back and see that we're not doing so well, they would look at these human beings that are jerks, that are killing the planet, killing themselves, not able to settle down. They're like a bunch of children, we should wipe it clean. This idea is borrowed from the Bible and other ancient Sumerian texts where, when humanity strayed from the righteous path, God or gods orchestrated various catastrophes such as the Great Flood to reset the human civilization. In the alien universe, these gods are depicted as beings from flesh and blood, the engineers. So Ridley Scott strongly implies that engineers are responsible for the Great Flood and other cataclysmic events that decimated human populations in ancient times. As depicted in Prometheus, the engineers prepared a ship loaded with a deadly pathogen intended for Earth. The movie mentions that the ship was ready to leave LV-223 approximately 2,000 years ago, coinciding with the time of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It appears that the movie integrates various events and religious texts into its timeline, even suggesting that Jesus was sent by the engineers. As mentioned in one of the early scripts, Jesus was taken to the engineer homeworld and then sent back to Earth with the mission of guiding humanity back to the righteous path.
The flash was later calculated to be brighter than 1,000 suns. Miles away, a young girl, blind from birth, saw the flash.
We say we have a commander-in-chief, but really the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink today. The guy running BlackRock is really the president of the United States. If we look at the kind of influence he's got in every industry, Joe. After you have all the money in the world, what's next? It's got to be control or a true vision. So Soros, when you're talking ESG, that story is a completely different story. You ever heard Soros' interview with 60 Minutes where he says, "I see myself as a god"? Have you ever seen this interview or what he says?
No.
Really?
He said he sees himself as a god.
Oh my God.
Raytheon has the technology to produce earthquakes all throughout the planet.
When the neutrino impacts the nucleus of the water molecule of the ice in the glaciers at the pole, a reaction occurs. The nucleus and the neutrino become destroyed. A muon is created and ejected, and a blue flash of light known as Cherenkov radiation flashes in the ice, and that's what the DOMs, the digital optical modules, are detecting. That's their primary purpose as presented. Now, whether that neutrino comes from a quasar out in space or a exotic propelled engine off of vehicles that aren't being discussed contemporarily, it detects it.
Quote, "It was on one of these first trips to Edwards when our man stationed there took me into the photo lab darkroom. He closed 2 sets of doors, a cement block room inside a room inside a room, and in almost a whisper told me of the UFO landing on the approach of the main runway and that they had been instructed to never talk about it." Close quote. Mr. Engler told me that the UFO landing on the Edwards Air Force Base runway was also witnessed by astronaut Gordon Cooper. That was the last Mercury mission. 15 years later, in November 1978, astronaut Gordon Cooper allegedly reported these words to the UN's Grenada ambassador: "I believe that extraterrestrial vehicles and their crews are visiting this planet from other planets, which obviously are a little more technically advanced than we are here on Earth. I did have occasion in 1951 to have 2 days of observation of many flights of them, of different sizes, flying in fighter formation, generally from east to west over Europe. They were at a higher altitude than we could reach with our jet fighters of that time. There are several of us who do believe in UFOs and who have had occasion to see a UFO on the ground or from an airplane." Close quote.
See this giant monolithic slab just sitting there. At first, it didn't, once again, it didn't set off any alarms. I didn't think much of it, but the closer we got to it, I could feel this intense vibration. But you couldn't hear anything. It was dead silent in there. The loudest thing was the footsteps that I could hear. And
what did the vibration feel like?
It felt like being at a concert, standing next to one of the speakers, and
without
the bass
the noise,
just permeating through your body without the noise.
There was zero noise.
Zero
vibration.
Absolute zero. I could still hear myself breathing over this, but inside, it was such a strange feeling to have. So the closer I got, I was like, well, I got to check this out. So I go down to one knee, thinking I got to tie my boots, and then I glance up underneath it, and there's absolutely nothing underneath this damn thing. Nothing holding it up whatsoever.
What did the slab look like?
It just looked like a granite slab, but the sheen on it is what caught my attention the most. It was kind of in between being polished or just completely translucent. There was something behind it, but you could tell it had a smooth surface to us. And the only lights that were on in that hangar that we were in were directly over our head where we were walking through that walkway.
It seems to be now around 450,000 years ago they arrived, and about 200,000 years ago, according to the text, not me, they started genetically tinkering with human beings, saying they were adding their essence to them to get us to do the labor for them. So around 200,000 years ago, they started tinkering with us, and there's a famous cylinder scroll and with some text at the British Museum with Isis, the goddess Isis, who was one of the original Sumerian pantheon, not Egyptian, Sumerian, and she's holding up a baby, and she says, the first Adamu, which means first man, my hands have created it. And she claims to have taken in the text, taken this baby to term for 10 months in her own womb to create the more modern version of Homo sapiens sapien.
All right, what do you want to do?
Do you want to make love, darling?
What did you say to me?
I don't think we're being run by normal human beings. Normal people do not do to the earth what the people who are running this planet do. So it would not surprise me, I don't know, I'm just theorizing, it would not surprise me if we found that the people in power today are actually not of this world. And that would explain why they don't give a damn about human life. They have no concept of freedom, liberty, and justice for all. They couldn't care less. They are not from this world. They do not live on this planet with us. They are here to subjugate the human race. They're here to imprison the human race and treat us all as if we're nothing more than slaves in a slave camp. So I don't have any concern about the politics of the world we live in. I'm far more concerned about who really is owning and running this planet. Who really created us, in point of fact. Because the man that I met back in 1959 was an extraordinary man, and I have had other extraordinary people tell me things and do things in front of me and that I saw them do that was absolutely inhuman and no human could do. So I am persuaded to believe that we are actually in the presence of alien life forms that look like us. I don't know where I'm going with all of this, but I feel it's very important because I would not be a bit surprised if scientists and people at the very top of this world know this for a fact and are in league with aliens who look like humans. There's all kinds of stories. We've heard all kinds of stories like that in the UFO community. And for many years, I'm not talking about just recently with Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. And this man has produced and directed so many UFO movies. And he did a television series, which was like, I don't know, 15 to 19-hour series called Taken. Aliens who came here who look like humans, who have abducted humans. I don't know if you have ever thought about this, but if you are going to finance Steven Spielberg movie for a 90-minute movie, you better have a lot of money. Because he is not cheap. He's the best there is. And consequently, if you think about how much money it must cost to finance Steven Spielberg's movies, well, Steven Spielberg made a 17-hour television series just on aliens who are abducting humans. He's made all kinds of movies, from E.T. to Close Encounters to all kinds of different, along with Poltergeist and other strange stories. What I'm suggesting is that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are not stupid. They're trying to tell you something. They're trying to prepare the human race, and they are highly financed. They are extraordinarily well financed to do anything they want to do. So anytime, and I've lived in Hollywood for 48 years, I know Hollywood, and I know anytime you are highly financed and promoted, where's the money coming from? And why is there such a concentration on this idea of humans, of aliens who look like humans?
Fighting in a number of locations around the country. You mentioned Chernobyl. Russian forces quickly overtaking that area. We understand they are still in control. The other thing that went down today that was of huge importance was Russian paratroopers went into an airfield 15 miles outside of Kyiv, and for a short period of time this afternoon.
I could have had some niggas come run your block, so bitch stop playing with me. I could have had some shorties come lay us down, bitch stop playing with me. Them niggas always gonna go there playing around, bitch stop playing with me. I could have had some niggas come run your spot, bitch stop playing with me.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Well, child's happiness is priceless, right? Especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on their birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially when it comes to their birthday.
Absolutely. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. Well, a child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's smile is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
You know, a child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. You like that?
In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some of the spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take the spring out of the step of the Easter Bunny. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby.
Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Mike Myers says, yeah, baby. Can I say that right?
Yes, yeah,
Talk show host Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be able to push the envelope on late night television. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on his late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope once again on late night TV.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien is looking to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night TV. Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be about to push the envelope on late night television.
Conan O'Brien may be preparing to push the late night envelope.
And welcome back to the show. I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you
scream, well, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, we all, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, we all know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, y'all know the rest of it, right? I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, and you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, I think you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, everybody knows the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, and you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I don't find that funny. I find it scary.
Media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Okay, guys, the time has come. I'm just gonna break it quick, clean, get it done with. Doesn't matter that I signed a blood oath. Doesn't matter anymore. The Illuminati's real. I'm a member. It's how Imagine Dragons got famous. I'm tired of the politics. This puts me at great risk putting this out here and telling you guys this, but I believe in full honesty, and Beyonce is not talking. Chris Martin, nobody's saying a word. So there it is. There. I'm gonna give you all the details as quick as I can. The president, Elon Musk, vice president, Harry Styles, treasurer, Beyonce, Taylor Swift is historian, and that's all I know. That's all I know.
It will not burn white. It will not burn white paper. Other colors? Yes, no problem. Will not burn white paper.
Is a 3,000-year-old Egyptian carving that looks just like Marge Simpson from the TV show The Simpsons proof of time travel? Oh no, but this is weird. So archaeologists in Egypt opened up a sarcophagus, and inside was a carving or a painting or an etching of something that looks just like Marge Simpson. Yeah, Marge, the mom from The Simpsons. Let me just show it to you. Okay, what does this look like to you? Because the first thing I thought of was Marge Simpson. I did, Marge Simpson. And when you look at them next to each other, you can see why the archaeologists were saying the same thing. So the archaeologists opened up this sarcophagus from 3,000 to 3,500 years ago from Egypt. And as they're looking at it, somebody said, I don't know if it was one of the archaeologists or somebody else, that's the Marge Simpson. That's the Marge Simpson. Now, I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but it sure would explain some stuff. Like, how does this TV show, this cartoon, keep predicting the future and getting it right? Well, if somebody somewhere, maybe even somebody involved in that show, was a time traveler, that would explain a lot. Or then again, maybe it is just a coincidence that Egyptians 3,000 to 3,500 years ago had a tomb with a picture that looks like Marge Simpson in it. Let me know what you think. Do you think that this is some weird coincidence related to that? Or do you think it's something else entirely?
the mysterious King Charles painting and the events surrounding it. On the 14th of May 2024, the art world and the public were abuzz as a highly anticipated painting of King Charles was revealed to the public. This painting, unlike any other royal portrait, sparked immediate intrigue and debate, not only for its striking use of colour, but also for the curious events that seemed to surround its unveiling. The portrait, predominantly red, depicted King Charles in a hauntingly regal yet almost ominous light. The artistic choice itself raised eyebrows, but what truly captured the public's imagination was an eerie event that had taken place just weeks prior, a bloody white horse seen galloping through the streets of London. The sighting of this horse, drenched in red and running wildly, coincided too closely with the painting's unveiling for many to ignore. Was this an elaborate coincidence, a symbolic gesture, or something more mysterious? Royal portraits traditionally serve to reflect stability, majesty, and the continuity of the monarchy. They often present the sovereign in a dignified, almost serene light, designed to convey authority and respectability. However, the red portrait of King Charles immediately stood out for its stark departure from this tradition. The image was not merely one of royal splendour, but carried an unsettling edge. The heavy use of red evoked connotations of blood, power, and passion, and it dominated the canvas in such a way that it overshadowed the usual trappings of royalty. The portrait was painted by Jonathan Yeo, and he said that his signature style is to place greater emphasis on capturing the sitter's character and essence. Despite the artist's explanation, many could not help but feel that the portrait conveyed a more ominous tone. On April 24th, Londoners witnessed a strange and unsettling sight, a white horse, streaked with what appeared to be blood, running wildly through the city streets. Witnesses described the horse as appearing distressed, its white coat stained with red, as if it had either been injured or splattered with blood. For many, the timing of the bloody white horse's appearance was too strange to be a mere coincidence. In folklore and mythology, white horses often symbolize purity, freedom, and nobility, but when combined with the image of blood, the symbolism becomes far darker. To some, the horse was a harbinger of chaos or impending tragedy. When the red painting of King Charles was revealed weeks later, the connection seemed undeniable to those inclined to look for deeper meaning. The combination of the horse's sudden appearance and the unsettling, blood-like hues of the painting led many to wonder if the two were linked by more than just coincidence.
I had to ask. People kept asking me, asking this. They're telling me to ask questions. Ask him this question, ask him that question. How does he travel? If he's a time traveler, how does he travel? I asked him the question. He said he travels through a Stargate. Isn't that interesting? So I'd asked him, please indulge me with this Stargate. Now, either he knows things, you know, he studies, I don't know. But the Book of Enoch talks about 12 portals. There's 3 on the east, 3 on the west, 3 on the north, and 3 on the south. Seriously, it's in the Book of Enoch. It talks about 12 portals.
And it walked by the fire and you could see immediately jet black, except for, I thought that it was maybe a reflection of the fire, but we all agreed later that it had a very light white stripe that went from the back of its neck all the way down to the tail. And that was the only other color that this thing showed other than the eyes. You know, you always hear stories about people that see dogmen in the woods during the day, and they talk about the different colored eyes and, you know, blue to black to brown. I don't know what this thing's true eye color was. All we could see was this orange amber color, just literally causing things to light up wherever it looked. So it wasn't eye shine. It was something internal coming out of this thing. And then another thing that really has brought me into believing that these are more than a natural creature and that there is something supernatural going on is when it walked by the fire and its front hands, paws, whatever you want to call them, had touched the ground near the fire. Something happened where it only happened with its front left hand or whatever you want to call it. It basically blinked out. It cloaked for a second. And you could see they see things through it, almost like that predator effect. And when it put its hand down by the fire, something really strange happened aside from the cloak effect. If you've ever seen video of the sun and the magnetic anomalies and storms that they have on the surface of the sun, where you see, the tubes come out of it and the different shapes and magnetic storms, basically that happened right around its cloaked out paw. And it only happened for about 2-3 seconds, enough that I noticed it and my other buddy noticed it. The other two did not. They were at a different angle. And it had basically just looked around the room. It bared its teeth after it sniffed, and it snapped its head and looked right up at us. It knew exactly where we were. It finally caught our scent, and it looked at us, and it looked up at us, and it bared its teeth, and it growled again, and you felt a vibration. But I truly believe that this half concrete wall that we had in front of us if it threw that infrasound at us again, I think that half concrete wall blocked it, because we didn't get sick or felt funny or anything. We felt a little vibration. You felt it. Like I remember I had I think it was my right hand on the top of the wall at that time, and I felt a little vibration in it, but didn't get sick or anything. So I truly believe that wall blocked whatever, because of the angle of it being down on the first floor, us being on the third, and it threw it at us. I truly think it did. And then it stood up again. And it was almost like, like a comic book pose. It threw its arms out to its sides, and its muscles all clenched, and it looked at us, and it growled, and it looked out to the left, it looked to the right, and it saw the stairs on the wall, and it looked back at us, and I got a sinking feeling in my stomach because I knew what it was going to do. It dropped back down on all four, and it ran for the stairs. And, like I had told you, it was missing 4 stairs. So we had to kind of hop over and climb the wall to get up. And it jumped over that like it wasn't even there. And it was heading up very fluid. Its tail, I remember when it ran, you could tell it utilized it kind of like a rudder. So it was kind of moving when it moved, its tail kind of bent certain ways. Its tail reminded me of a mountain lion or a cougar. Very non-hairy, short hair, very thick. I remember the bones in its legs and its arms being just gigantically thick. And again, that sense of, not only are we looking at something that's not supposed to exist, the size, again, is just so massive, it has to be fake. And again, this is really happening. And when it had stood up, I forgot to mention this, it had stood up near one of those concrete pillars that I had mentioned the building had in all 4 corners. And we had gone back years later. We never went back for years. And we got an idea of how big these pillars were, which gave us an idea of the size estimation of this animal. And when it stood up, it basically width-wise blocked out the pillar. So it was as wide as the pillar, 4 to 5 feet across. And height-wise, the ceilings were probably where, at the sides where there was floor above. It was probably 15 to 18 feet high. I would guesstimate, and my friends guesstimated, it was somewhere between 10 to 12 feet tall. So it stood up, its ears probably were at least 12 feet at the tip. And again, I've heard people describe sizes of Sasquatch and other cryptids of massive size. And, people will, well, you were kids. Well, we went back as adults. And I'm telling you, we remembered where it stood and it had to be minimum 10 feet. I truly think, again, tips of the ears, 11, 12 feet tall. Now it's heading up the stairs towards us. 2 of my friends are going absolutely ape crap crazy, running. One is running in circles, the one that I had to grab his mouth. He's screaming bloody murder in circles, just running in circles, going nowhere. And he finally jets for the stairs to take him up to the 4th floor. My other friend runs for the fire escape. Again, you can't go down. So only way is up. And I'm frozen, petrified. My other friend is standing next to me. He just said, I was standing next to you. I didn't know what to do. And it made its way from the 1st to the 2nd floor in seconds. And then it started to head up from the 2nd floor to the 3rd. And where I was standing.
If you've ever wondered what it takes to make money in the currency market, which tools work.
If anybody this thing or anyone would have walked up to the top of the stairs, the first thing it would have met would have been me. And it would have came within 2 feet of me once it got to the top of the stairs. It got to the middle of the stairs, and I started having true belief that this is the day that I'm going to die. I started to think about my family. I thought about my dog, who I loved very much. I thought about I was getting ready to go into high school to play football at the school, Ursuline High School, a Catholic school, very big into sports and athletics as well as academics. And my dad had played there. My whole family had gone there. I was very proud that I was going to be playing football there. And I thought, I'm not going to get to play. All this is going through my head. It's all gone. And we're going to watch each one of us truly be mauled and killed by this creature, and this is the end. I really believe this was the day I was going to die. And it was probably within 6 to 7 feet from me when I looked at it, and it was looking right at me or at my friend. I think it was looking at me because he was behind me, and I would have been, like, again, the first one it got to. And right at that moment, I will always believe this to the day I die, and the sweat's starting again. I believe there was divine intervention. I truly believe it. I'm Catholic. I'm not a great Catholic. I don't go to church a lot. I don't practice as much as I should. But I think that there was divine intervention, because once it hit that 6, 7 feet mark from me, where if it would have jumped, it would have been on me. We heard a train, and whenever a train would come by, we would always get nervous, because if they'd see, us in there or the light from a fire, we'd be in big trouble. They would call the police or whoever, and we'd be in trouble. And we had never, ever had a train go by where they laid on the horn. And it came by, and as soon as it went by the building, be it from the angle the guy that was driving it saw the inside, what was going on, or he just saw the fire, which I seem to think he noticed how bright of a fire we had going in there. He laid on this horn, and this thing stopped right 6 to 7 feet from me, and it looked at me, and it looked back at the opening where you could see the train going by, and we're all screaming bloody murder. Somebody help us, please save us. My other 2 friends are gone. They had, one went up to the roof, the other ran up the stairs. I don't know where he was. My friend and I were screaming, someone help us. And it looked back at us, and it looked back again, and it turned around and started running down. And it took literally, I would say, 1 to 1.5 seconds to get from where it stood 6 to 7 feet from me at the 3/4 mark of that 2nd to 3rd floor step area to the steps of the going from the 2nd to the 1st. And then something else supernatural happened, where you stopped seeing movement of joints and the tail, and it just was a black streak that left the building. And it wasn't just from how fast it was. It had basically gone from physical creature to almost shadow. And it just was a black mass had just left the building, and it was gone. And I'll always remember that. And through the years, the things I've been learning, hearing about shadow people and people, very similar things that I saw and we saw when it did that. And we're screaming, and the train just is, ka-clonk, ka-clonk, ka-clonk. And it starts, we're thinking it's slowing down, and it wasn't. And it starts getting farther and farther away. And then the hope of we're going to be saved is slowly leaving us. And then it's gone.
Come out and they've run out of anecdotes, and they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, what did he say then?
Coming this way.
So they're saying he went through dimensional space?
Oh, whoa. Is that the footage? It looks like it has legs. descending. The camera did not survive the landing.
Huh?
Neil Armstrong pictured after the flight, visibly shaken from what he saw. Armstrong was given memory drugs.
Memory drugs?
Armstrong was then transferred to the space program on September. Okay, so that was a very simple premise, but I already have an enormous amount of questions.
What's this stuff right here that is in spirals showing up there, and then you've even seen them down here? So I'm sitting here watching the hurricane, and I'm watching these circles of waves show up on there. You can literally see it here zoomed in more. And watch how the cloud does in these areas as well. Interesting, huh? Watch it on this cloud model of how it's moving. Interesting, wouldn't you say? Here you see it happening here near Hammond, and then you see it here happening in Jackson. And this ain't the only one. Here's something not too far from New Guinea to where you see it doing this, and we're familiar with this, right? Wow. And here we are off the coast for Queensland, Australia, and they have even weird stuff taking place. And the first time that this showed up was 10 hours ago of when this started happening, of these ripples that you see popping up here and here. Let me know your thoughts. Take care. God bless.
No, that was crazy.
President Teddy Roosevelt sought to protect the Grand Canyon from timber and mining operations. Explorer G.E. Kincaid, anticipating the closure, mounted an expedition to the area to find minerals. But what he discovered there was something completely unexpected. Approximately 40 miles upriver from El Tovar Crystal Canyon, Kincaid observed unusual sediment stains, and upon investigation found a cavern entrance with steps leading to it, suggesting a man-made structure. Inside, Kincaid found writings on the walls not in English or Native American scripts, but in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. This finding suggested a historical connection far beyond local or known civilizations. The cave system revealed a vast underground city, estimated to house up to 50,000 people, complete with granaries, cooking areas, and artifacts, indicating a sophisticated society with knowledge of metalwork and possibly agriculture. Among the findings were granaries with preserved seeds, tools made of copper indicating a lost art of hardening the metal, and various artifacts that pointed to a technologically advanced civilization. The complexity of the cave system with engineered passageways and rooms challenged contemporary understandings of ancient civilizations in North America. Kincaid's findings led to a Smithsonian expedition led by Professor S.A. Jordan, which further explored the cave system, uncovering a central chamber with a statue resembling Buddha, hinting at a cultural amalgamation or influence from distant lands. The artifacts and the layout of the cave suggested a deliberate, sophisticated design, contradicting the notion of an isolated or primitive local civilization. Despite significant discoveries, mainstream researchers and the Smithsonian have labeled the account as a hoax and dismissing the claims of an advanced civilization predating Native Americans in the Grand Canyon, and the possibility of ancient transoceanic contacts that might have influenced pre-Columbian American civilizations. Any and all attempts to further explore or validate Kincaid's findings face governmental restrictions, with areas off limits for exploration. This remarkable discovery aligns with local tribal legends, such as those of the Hopi, suggesting a historical basis for tales of ancient peoples and non-human entities emerging from the Grand Canyon, blending myth with tangible archaeological intrigue.
You know about Monster, the energy drink company, right? You know on the can of the drink? Listen carefully because this theory is a bit crazy. There's symbolism of a claw, right? The M, it's supposed to be a claw. The line in the M doesn't fully attach. Have you ever realized that? So listen to this. The symbol that is similar to the number 1 in reality is a symbol deriving from Hebrew alphabet, or just a Hebrew symbol. And guess what that translates to? The number 6. Well, you look at the Monster can, and there's 3 of those, and that's basically 666, which we often label the devil's number. The theory goes on to say that the O in Monster has a cross on it. People question, like, why would an O need a cross? And that makes sense, doesn't it? Monster isn't associated with religions, in this case Christianity or like Catholicism. So what's the point in adding the cross? The theory then goes further to say that when you drink it, the can is rotated, so the cross becomes upside down. And we know that the upside down cross is a symbol for witchcraft. Then, finally, their slogan is, Unleash the Beast. The slogan alongside the logo and the O and the name must be on purpose. The question is, why did Monster decided to brand themselves like this?
I guess drink each other's blood might mislead people, or like people are imagining us with like goblets and we're like Game of Thrones drinking each other's blood. It's just a few drops, but yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes only. It is used for a reason, and it is controlled where it's like, let's shed a few drops of blood and each drink it. He's much more haphazard and hectic and chaotic, where he's willing to just like cut his chest open with broken glass and be like, take my soul, let me bleed on you. It doesn't not happen, let me tell you. Maybe not exactly like that, but a version of that has happened many times.
How is everyone in that room just okay with this? Like, it's no big deal. Like, why is this even considered normal to Megan Fox?
You guys want to hear something terrifying? The Prophecy of the Pope. This book was found in the Vatican archives in the 1500s, and it was authored by, his name was Malachi of Armagh, but this book has 111 cryptic phrases. Basically, it predicted every single pope from in 1143 all the way to our current pope, Pope Francis.
No way.
But the scary thing is, after Pope Francis, the last one, it just says in Judgment Day.
Oh gosh.
It literally ends after Pope Francis?
Yes. The creepiest thing that I saw inside St. Paul's Basilica, like bordering the whole inner sanctuary, is every single pope, like a picture of every single pope. But what's weird is that there's only a certain amount of markers to where you can put a picture. One left after Pope Francis. They have always said that once that last slot is filled, it will be the end of the world. What he predicted, and the time it took to go from the first pope that he wrote about to the second halfway mark pope, was 422 years. And he's saying from the middle one to the end, another 422 years will be the end of the world. And if you do 422 years from the middle pope, which was 1585, that year is 2027.
Dang!
Pope John the 23rd, he said that the end of the world would happen 2,000 years plus Christ's life. So that adds up to 2027 as well.
It would seem strange that the writer of Revelation would describe a beast with a voice like a dragon in exactly the same language as the book of Isaiah's description of Yahweh. Why, in the book of Job, would Yahweh boast of his own strength by comparing himself with the monstrous, fire-breathing Leviathan? In the book of 2 Samuel, King David describes Yahweh like this: "In my distress I called out to Yahweh. From his temple he heard my voice. My cry came to his ears. The earth trembled and quaked. The foundations of the skies shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils, consuming fire came from his mouth. Burning coals blazed out of it. He parted the skies and came down, with dark clouds of smoke under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew, soaring on the wings of the wind. Bolts of lightning blazed forth, the valleys of the sea were exposed, and the foundations of the earth laid bare, at the rebuke of Yahweh, at the blast of breath from his nostrils." Multiple texts in the Hebrew canon speak of Yahweh's wings and pinions, and in almost every text where the nostrils of Yahweh are mentioned in the Bible, the length of the nostrils is mentioned, and almost invariably, destruction by fire quickly follows.
Squid Games is supposedly based on a real thing.
Is it actually?
And it's like censored everywhere. And like there's only one person that talked about it. That's why it's got so
No way.
Yeah. So it's called Brothers Home.
Yeah.
So back in 1986, South Korea was a dictatorship, right? And just like Squid Game, random people were captured and put in white vans. Literally exact same plot. They went to their house, police. They were accused of crimes they weren't even committed. So they're like, oh, what? I didn't even do that. I didn't even steal. No, you're coming with us to this penitentiary.
Yeah.
Right? So boom, they take in the white van. Once they get there, they're locked up. They put concrete walls. Nobody can escape. It's literally the same thing. The beds, the placement.
Wow. So they took the exact same
exact
concept?
same.
Damn.
The numbers, people's names were changed into numbers. And they all slept together in one room. And the only thing that was kind of different was Squid Games was you woke up and you played a game.
Yeah.
But this one is you woke up and you were forced to do labor. And the first
that's like prison.
No, but the first person to stop or run away was killed.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it's called Brothers Home, and it's not. Fam, there's only
what was it?
one.
What was it like live. It wasn't live stream at all. It was just like something closed.
Yeah, it was just something that was happening like when nobody knew about it. It was like very censored. There's only one article that's...
Where was this again?
South Korea.
South Korea?
Yeah.
In South Korea?
In South Korea, yeah.
I didn't f a guy, but I had to let a guy perform oral sex on me.
Yeah.
To get my first special. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh yeah, the classic.
Yeah.
I just assumed this was sort of public knowledge. Like,
people are still like wowed by it. Like
everyone knows this is what happens.
I thought, yeah.
I had to drink a flagon of scene just to get a commercial agent. Like not
Really?
even to get. I didn't even book a commercial.
I had a different like commercial initiation. I was like strung, you know, like but upside down.
Yeah.
And it was a red room. They were always in a red room.
Red room.
Ton of candles, right? And
Yep.
then they just kept. You felt it getting warm. You're like, is the heat on? And they're like, no, there's a fire below you. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then in the morning, you're just like, you're like so much sweat pouring off you. You're naked, right? And then these men come in the room and they touch you. They don't like, for me, it wasn't like,
Yeah.
I guess you could say it was sensual. It was more than sensual.
Yeah.
But when I left the room, I had an agent and I got a Sony commercial.
I think this is why you're doing theaters.
Yeah.
You know, because I just drank a flagon of. And
Yeah.
like, you know, I love that I'm doing clubs and stuff, but
Yeah.
I feel like if I've been invited into the red room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Question of how and why the United Nations is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the great conspiracy. And the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations one world government. Is that our so-called leaders in Washington, whom we elected to safeguard our nation and our Constitution, are the betrayers, and that behind them are a comparatively small group of men whose sole objective is to enslave the whole world of humanity in their satanic plot of one world government. Now, as a matter of further intelligence, a term used by the FBI, let me clarify the meaning of the expression, "he is a liberal." The enemy, meaning the one world conspirators, have seized upon that word liberal as a cover-up for their activities. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. We'll make sure that the person who calls himself a liberal or is described as a liberal is not in truth a red. Now then, this satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name of the Illuminati.
1760s, guys. Keep that in mind. Think about what happened in the 1700s. Certain things were founded.
This Illuminati was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, who was converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest, and then, at the behest of the then newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation. And every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati, operating under various names and guises. In the United States, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. And this CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States. And its hierarchy, the masterminds in control of the CFR, to a very great extent, are the descendants of the original Illuminati conspirators.
They are
But
related.
to conceal that fact, most of them changed their original family names to American-sounding names. For example, The true name of the Dillons, Clarence and Douglas Dillon, once Secretary of the U.S. Treasury Department, is Lepowski. There is a similar establishment of the Illuminati in England, operating under the name of the British Institute of International Affairs. There are similar secret Illuminati organizations in France, Germany, and other nations operating under different names. But at all times, the operations of these organizations were and are masterminded and controlled by the internationalist bankers, who in turn were and are controlled by the Rothschilds. Now, just why did the conspirators choose the word Illuminati for their satanic organization? Weishaupt himself said that the word is derived from Lucifer and means holders of the light, using the lie that his objective was to bring about a one-world government to enable those with mental ability to govern the world and prevent all wars in the future. In short, using the word peace on earth as his bait. Perhaps the most vital directive in Weishaupt's plan was to obtain absolute control of the press so that all news and information could be slanted, so that the masses could be convinced that a one-world government is the only solution to our many and varied problems. Now do you know who owns and controls our mass communications media? I'll tell you, practically all the movie lots in Hollywood is owned by the Lehmans, Kuhn Loeb and Company, Goldman Sachs, and other internationalist bankers. All the national radio and TV channels in the nation are owned and controlled by those same internationalist bankers. In 1834, the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini was selected by the Illuminati to direct their revolutionary program throughout the world. Mazzini had enticed an American general named Albert Pike into the Illuminati. Pike was fascinated by the idea of a one-world government, and ultimately he became the head of this Luciferian conspiracy. Between 1859 and 1871, Pike, worked out a military blueprint for 3 world wars and various revolutions throughout the world, which he considered would forward the conspiracy to its final stage in the 20th century. Long before Marconi invented radio, the scientists in the Illuminati had found the means for Pike and the heads of his councils to communicate secretly. It was the discovery of that secret that enabled intelligence officers to understand how apparently unrelated incidents, one such as the assassination of an Austrian prince at Sarajevo, took place simultaneously throughout the world, which developed into a war or a revolution. Pike's plan was as simple as it has proved effective. It called for communism, Nazism, political Zionism, and other international movements be organized and used to foment 3 global world wars and at least 2 major revolutions. World War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies the agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other, while at the same time the remaining nations, once more divided on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Now, can any thinking person doubt that the intrigue now going on in the Near, Middle, and Far East is designed to accomplish that satanic objective? Pike himself foretold all this in a statement he made to Mazzini on August 15, 1871. Pike stated that after World War III is ended, those who will inspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known. Quoting his own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England, he said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Anyway, the ending of the Civil War destroyed, temporarily, all chances of the House of Rothschild to get a clutch on our money system, such as they had acquired in Britain and other nations in Europe. I say temporarily because the Rothschilds and the masterminds of the conspiracy never quit. So they had to start from scratch, but they lost no time in getting started. Shortly after the Civil War, a young immigrant who called himself Jacob H. Schiff arrived in New York. Jacob was a young man with a mission for the House of Rothschild. Jacob was the son of a rabbi, born in one of Rothschild's houses in Frankfurt, Germany. After a comparatively brief training period in the Rothschilds' London bank, Jacob left for America with instructions to buy into a banking house, which was to be the springboard to acquire control of the money system of the United States. Actually, Jacob came here to carry out 4 specific assignments. Number 1, and most important, was to acquire control of America's money system. Number 2, find desirable men who, for a price, would be willing to serve as stooges for the great conspiracy and promote them into high places in our federal government, our Congress, in the U.S. Supreme Court, and all federal agencies. Number 3, create minority group strife throughout the nations, particularly between whites and blacks. Number 4, create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, but Christianity to be the chief target. In the final phases of the conspiracy, the one world government will consist of the king dictator, head of the United Nations, the CFR, and a few billionaires, economists, and scientists who have proved their devotion to the great conspiracy. All others are to be integrated into a vast conglomeration of mongrelized humanity, actually slaves.
What do you call your computer? What do you call that right there? Laptop. You know where the name came from? Steve Jobs used to put the original computer on his lap, and they called it a laptop. You know what kind of cancer he got? Retroperitoneal cancer. What did you always see in his Levi's in the back? Pocket wore out, because that's where you put what? iPhone. He writes a book. You know what it said in the book? You need to go read it. It said, I don't want my kids to use my technology. Do you know why?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Steve Jobs knew that his technology was a problem. Do you know how I can tell you guys that it's a problem? iPad 2 came out. Do you know that iPad 2 had an infrared detector in it so that when the detector touched the kid, it would turn off the RF and microwaves?
Wow.
Do you want to know why it's important for you to know? Apple never marketed it. Do you know why? If they would have marketed it, they would have told you, you would have asked the question, is this good or bad for you?
I haven't seen an iPhone with a button on it in a long time. But that's not the point. Whoa.
And that sound, and that feeling, that is the frequency and vibrations. What the old world used so predominantly. And the true reason behind all the bells that magically disappeared. Or they tell us it was for ammunition for the wars. But many truths get lost in the fog of war. The healing and uplifting properties of bells have been used for generations. But it goes deeper than that, moving us from the true nature of this realm, making us all that much easier to control.
What these entities want is the child's energy before that shift takes place. The pre-puberty period of a child's life, they're operating on a certain wavelength frequency. That's why they target children. That's one reason they target children. You take a child, or you take an adult, because they sacrifice adults as well, and you put them in this terrifying situation where they're surrounded by these people in robes and hoods As they are feeling more and more terror, which is a very, very powerful emotional energy.
So you're saying that the rituals itself, the theatrics, to heighten change the
it's to heighten
feeling
the
of the
terror,
child.
to heighten the terror. And what they're also doing is, with their chants, which are frequencies, they're vibrational fields generated from the vocal cord. And so all these different elements of the ritual are about creating a frequency vibrational environment. They are generating more and more extreme terror in the victim.
Now, I want to show you a piece of quartz crystal in its natural form. Now, if we were to examine this carefully, we can see that the quartz crystal has a hexagonal cross-section. That is to say, it has 6 sides. Now, also, quartz crystal in its natural form has pointed ends. This one doesn't because a primary cut has already been made on this crystal. Now, let's take a look at this drawing so that we can determine more about the quartz crystal. There are 2 views. The top view indeed shows us that the quartz crystal has a hexagon shape, 6 sides. While the lower view points out that indeed the quartz crystal in its natural form does have pointed ends. Now, quartz crystal in its natural form cannot possibly be used in oscillator circuits. It must be cut in a specific manner to exhibit its piezoelectric properties.
Recent research has suggested that plants aren't only sentient, but are intelligent on levels we never would have imagined possible. Check this out.
There's been a revolution in vegetal biology. Science now shows that plants appear to be sentient beings. They perceive light, smell, touch, water, and many more variables than we do. They can learn, remember, and communicate. They exhibit the traits that we associate with personhood. Experimental science has confirmed that plants can see when you're standing next to them and the color of your shirt. They don't have eyes, but they have the same photoreceptor proteins all over their bodies that humans have at the back of the retina. A plant may not have a brain, but it acts like a brain, says Narby. The word neuron comes from the Greek for vegetal fiber. Neurons actually look like the cut of the inside of a plant. Research over the past 30 years has illuminated a profound intelligence throughout nature. Dolphins and many other animals recognize themselves in a mirror, long a scientific measure of intelligence. Pigeons have better memory for paintings than do college students. But you gotta give it up for slime molds. In every single test, these single-celled, brainless, mucus-like blobs that can reach the size of a human hand perfectly solve mazes, another measure of intelligence.
Watch this video with me. This guy is about to pronounce the name of God correctly. Let's play it.
How do you pronounce YHWH when there is no vowels? To say it correctly, you don't use your tongue and you can't close your lips. So his name imitates the natural act of breathing as you inhale and exhale. So this is how YHWH sounds like. Can you imagine the first word you have ever spoken when you came out of your mother's womb was the personal name of God? And the last word you will ever speak in this life, the last breath you will take on your deathbed, will be the name of God. You will leave this earth when his name no longer fills your lungs.
Have you ever heard of the story of Gilgamesh? The story was written 2000 BC. The story talks about how he was 2/3 God and 1/3 man. The claim was that he was 17 feet tall.
Oh man.
And he was this brutal king, like a tyrant. But the story goes that he was buried under the Euphrates River.
That's drying up.
Well, here's the thing. In 2003, archaeologist by the name of Jörg Fassbinder, he was in the Mesopotamia area doing like the whole LiDAR thing. And what he said is, I have found the tomb of Gilgamesh.
Oh my gosh.
But it's underground, right? So they have to like dig it up. Guess what happened 1 month later?
Earthquake.
The U.S. invades Iraq.
Oh my gosh.
No way.
This is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
All the
This is
archaeological
funny, I don't
sites
believe
were getting
this.
stopped in Iraq, so stop digging, you're out of here. And the U.S. military set up an encampment around the tomb site. But the locals around this encampment reported that the U.S. military were digging at...
If your ultimate goal is to be famous, then you're gonna do a lot to get there, like sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil.
I had my first record ever and selling my soul to Hollywood Records. Sold my soul to the devil. Well, needless to say, sold my soul.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. Lisa came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
That wasn't fake for a minute, just real soul to soul, right? Yeah. They ain't take too long, Illuminati, man. Did you sell your soul yet? Did I sell my soul? I sold my soul for you. I
sold my soul to the devil. This is the first time I'm wearing a long dress, so soak it in, America. Get used to this.
Let's hit the devil.
come to you, right? And tell you, I'll give you $100 million. But I want you to turn your back on God. You should turn your back on God.
Murder was the case. I want my shit to be about cutting a deal with the devil, then getting sentenced to the pen. Then the shit happens.
I was like, now I have to do something pretty ridiculous and insane with my life. So why not sell my soul and go under the shore? That's what I did.
Sign up for that in the contract. You know that's going to happen.
Yeah, we sell our soul.
Have we sold our soul to the devil? How else can you explain this thing here?
I like summon Satan, and I wite about how I made it.
Where do you summon Satan?
It's in the chapter called Eat, Pray, Love, Conjure Satan. And when I was 12 years old, I signed a deal with Satan in my room, and I was to...
CBS doesn't condone this.
Wait a minute. Because I wanted to get famous no matter what. And, you know, then I forgot that I had this deal with Satan and everything. And then I got really famous. And then one day I, had this tragic singing accident at
yes, I remember that, yeah.
And I realized then that Satan was coming for my soul.
No. It made me want to go back to Satan worship. Well, I think it worked for me. It got me a career.
The devil. But I call him Beelzebub, Lucifer. It's how I got this job.
Why is your hand over your eye? Because I'm a devil worshiper. What are you talking about? My last ticket to see the devil worshiper.
And so I did research in satanic kind of cults and stuff like that. You know, as a matter of fact, in Los Angeles right now, there's like 50,000 devil worshippers. And that's not even that's not even including the agents.
Yeah.
Good evening, godless sodomites. I'm bringing the truth, John. We're in Hollywood, the belly of the beast. It warps the minds of our children and weakens the resolve of our allies.
The results are often dramatic and always unexpected. We're here to honor achievement in that category.
By giving you a golden idol to worship. Kneel before your God, Babylon!
A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. If it was up to him, Caesar Milan would be up here with that damn dog. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus, this award is my God now!
Very honored to be able to receive this amazing award from the devil, from the depths of the soul, from the devil, from the depths of the soul.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
I'd like to thank the devil and all the dark lords. You don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer, I'm gonna...
I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my hand.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
That's why motion picture stars are called movie stars, because in the Bible, stars were referred to as lesser illuminaries. So these lesser illuminaries are working for the big Illuminati. So the big Illuminati are using the lesser Illuminati. The lesser illuminaries are just stars.
Now, we have pictures with the president with his hand stretched out, holding a red rose.
But I have about 15 major color pictures of communist leaders throughout the world holding a red rose in their hand. And these are from newspapers and magazines. I began to pick up on this because someone alerted me to it, that the symbol of the red rose implies not only socialism and communism, but a secret society operating behind socialism and communism that uses the red rose.
This way out Willie holding the rose. We find Khrushchev. We find
all the communist
leaders, all the communist leaders, and then we find the president of the United States over in his early years leading anti-American demonstrations in the Soviet Union.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that it's not enough to say these things. You really must show the pictures so that people will see that what we're talking about here are symbols and emblems.
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up. Why is everyone having such a hard time? He ain't doing shit. He lined up D. Haven, stole his life and identity. He lined up Big L, stole his life and identity. He lined up Dame Dash, stole his life, identity, and took his love. Lined up R. Kelly. He wants to be the one.
What the heck? What was that about? No. Well, that makes sense. Thank you, Des, for the videos.
He absolutely thought he was quite rich and that his family would be rich forever. I discovered he had next to zero, next to nothing. I discovered that the home that he had thought that he had just bought was not his.
This is the recording contract Tupac signed in prison, committing Tupac to do 3 albums for Death Row Records. Tupac agreed to appoint as his lawyer the longtime lawyer for Suge Knight and Death Row, David Kenner, who says there's no conflict in what he did.
You just have to think about the consequences of coming in to have an agreement signed with a lawyer, and the lawyer walks out not only representing this side, but representing both sides. He asked over and over and over and over again for accountings of the things that he did, of the monies that came in and never got him. And when he screamed loud enough, someone would bring over a car and say, Tupac, here's a Rolls Royce. And he'd drive it around. And then when he died, you found out none of it was his.
Tupac's family says in the month before his death, Tupac was fast catching on and preparing to break free of his reliance on Death Row and its lawyer, his lawyer, David Kenner.
A few days before he was killed, he formally sent a letter telling David Kenner that he no longer can represent him.
James Webb confirmed 2 things, allegedly. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, allegedly.
One is that these lights may have been spotted about 0.9 light years away. If that information is inaccurate, maybe Simon can help out, fill in the blanks. And the other one is the one that made me do the video, which is that people are being told that they spotted an object that is not natural because it course corrected, that is allegedly approaching here. So that's not something.
So let me see if I understand this correctly. There may be something headed for Earth, a non-human object potentially. Is that the theory? Again, this is all allegedly, but we're spitballing.
That's what I was told that they're telling people in Congress.
Yeah, and do you think like a craft? We don't know.
They just said an object.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theory around the Mandela effect. This woman gave the example of the Fruit of the Loom logo. She said the Fruit of the Loom logo used to have a cornucopia in it.
It did. Yeah, it did.
Fruit of the Loom was like, we've never ever had that.
Crazy, That's impossible.
This chick went so crazy about it that she was talking to her therapist, and her therapist is like, chill out about Fruit of the Loom. She was like, I'm not kidding. It has a cornucopia in it, and I'm gonna die on this hill. She went through her whole closet and like friends' closets and stuff, and she finally found a T-shirt that had the Fruit of the Loom logo with a cornucopia.
No way.
And she went as far as to go look at the old like trademarks and stuff, and found an illustration of the cornucopia.
Dude, what is up with that? Why are they gaslighting us?
The theory is it's a giant experiment to see how easy it is to erase history.
I mean, that's 100% probably a real thing.
To be stubborn. It's Bernstein Bears.
Yes.
Yeah, not Berenstain.
Well, the reason they couldn't mention stars or take photographs of stars is that the astronomy buffs at Vanderbilt or Harvard or UCSC would have found the errors instantly. Right. Do you want me to mention him by name? Okay, why not? Of course, Lee is kind of a reclusive person, but I don't mind mentioning his name. He can't live forever.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
James Irwin was the command pilot on Apollo 15. James, after his return from the moon, James Irwin called me at my home, and he said, "I understand you've written a book called We Never Went to the Moon." He says, "Come to think of it, this phone could be tapped." He says, "I want you to call me at my home on Friday in Colorado Springs, Colorado." So I said, "Okay, Jim, I'll call you." And he gave me his home phone number. Well, when I called him on Friday, James Irwin was dead. He had died of a heart attack.
Tell me about the
heart attack, huh?
How did one of your guest appearances on operating program?
Oh. While I was on a radio show concerning Apollo, an airline pilot called me and he said, "Bill, I think you're right, because while I was traveling from San Francisco to Tokyo, we saw a C-5A drop a capsule out of its cargo hold. The three orange parachutes opened, and it descended toward the ocean. And even though we were traveling at about 550 knots, we followed this descent as long as we could. When the command capsule returns to Earth, the atmosphere causes it to become red hot due to friction at high speed. Well, when a command capsule strikes an ocean, which is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, this red-hot capsule should have turned a large volume of seawater into steam instantly. Just like when you pour water into a hot pot on the stove, it's called flashing into steam. But in all of the photographs showing the capsule hitting the water, there's no indication whatsoever of any steam, of any indication that the capsule was really red hot. On December 7th, 1975, I was invited to discuss my book at radio station KOME in San Jose, California. The moderator or talk show host was Victor Bach. About halfway through the broadcast, the engineer came into the control room, or the room where we were giving our information, and he said, "We're off the air." Subsequent investigation indicated that someone in a helicopter had dropped napalm on the KOME transmitter in the Gilroy Hills, causing $250,000 worth of damage and effectively cutting off the station from the air for 3 days. Well, police came to the station and offered us police protection because callers into the station said, "What happened to you? You had this fellow on about we never went to the moon, and suddenly your radio station goes off the air." So to me, this was the first real-life indication that there was somebody that didn't want me to tell this story.
Some of these Sasquatch videos is real, bro. But you ain't no denying that. I don't care whether y'all gonna say, "Oh, he dressed up for the movie." Man, this boxer right here has a hybrid Bigfoot, and he's here on the stage with him right in front of your face, man. Y'all better stop playing with me, bro. We gonna expose these people. Put it in the comments, hit the like button, and make sure y'all follow me here for more, man. It's getting spooky out here, respectfully.
Force Survival School topography map. What makes this United States military issued topography map of Washington State so very interesting is dangerous animals, spiders, scorpions, plants, poisonous plants. But now pay attention. There's no editing in this video whatsoever. One take. Sasquatch. Listed under dangerous animals. So, is that proof that Sasquatch really does exist? This is not a trick. This is not an edited video. This is a map that was issued by the United States federal government, Air Force. This is a topography map.
A German flat earth map from World War II has just been uncovered, and it depicts another ice wall all around Earth with other continents and land masses that are outside of it. And supposedly Germany during this time period went on expeditions. See these black circles? I had to erase that so we didn't have to see their symbol, but this is supposedly where they went out and just claimed this land. Here's New Schwabenland, whatever that is, and they actually have Asgard way over there. And then up here we've got Terra de Vista. I'm not sure what that is, and I don't know what that is either. Is that supposed to be the top of the earth or something? And then over here we have the lost continent of Lemuria, which apparently went underneath the sea and sank somehow, but I guess it's on this map from the 1940s. But a lot of these words we can't even read because it's in German, but this is also a reflection of the moon map, if you've ever seen that.